Good afternoon, Campbell McCreary, Amvest Capital, New York City. Welcome to the Amvest Capital Inc. live webinar with Blue Sky Uranium. Blue Sky trades on the Toronto Venture as BSK and as BKUCF on the OTC QB. We hope you'll enjoy today's program. It will also be available in replay mode on demand about an hour after we wrap up at amvestcapital.com/replays. You also get an email on that. Please send in your questions. They're during live show here, really helpful, and it's your opportunity to very easily get your questions asked. About us, Amvest is a New York-based specialist investment management corporate finance firm, of course, based in New York. And please read this informational purposes only disclaimer when you get a moment. We have with us today Nico Kakos. Nico, I'm going to make you presenter. He's president and CEO of Blue Sky. More than 25 years of experience and all that time at the Grosso Group, which you'll shortly learn more about. And do turn on your webcam. And Guillermo Pensado, the VP of Exploration and Development, and Guillermo obviously is a geologist. So with that, I'll pass it to this great team here, and Guillermo, you're in Argentina, and Nico's in sunny Vancouver.
Yes, I am. The sun just came out, so you got that right, yeah. Campbell. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for that great introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to be back here at Amvest. Always a pleasure to be here and addressing always a very knowledgeable and very unique audience. Welcome, everybody. Today, we'll be going over Blue Sky Uranium, and what we'll be talking about is the very, very unique opportunity that Blue Sky holds in the uranium space. We're talking not just about a discovery of a single deposit, but of an entire district that has the potential to rank amongst the largest districts in the world in uranium and amongst the lowest operating costs. So that's a bold opening, and with that, we'll get moving on to our presentation. And here's our disclaimer. I do encourage everybody to review it, as in this presentation there will be some forward-looking statements. The investment highlights. Why consider Blue Sky as an investment? How does it stand out from our other uranium companies out there? Number one, we're in a buoyant uranium market. And I'll be going over that in brief, but overall, there's a supply deficit, and the demand for uranium is going up, and then we're seeing the price. We're seeing the price of uranium rising. Today, it's up over $32 an ounce, and also the very unique opportunity that Blue Sky has in a local in-country demand in Argentina for uranium. That's actually also a unique opportunity that I'll be addressing later on. The project itself. The project has value that underpins this company. We've published a PEA in 2019 with just under 23 million pounds of uranium and 11.5 million pounds of vanadium. It's definitely open for expansion as we've identified targets throughout this entire district. Now, the district runs 145 kilometers in length, and we will be talking about the drill program that's ongoing right now, and looking to expand and find additional deposits. And of course, we'll be demonstrating in this presentation that this district has the potential to make multiple discoveries, very much like what we see in Kazakhstan, to be amongst the 100-200 million pound uranium discovery districts there, and again have some of the lowest operating costs. The project itself, where it's situated, this is a map of Argentina. You'll see in the province of Rio Negro, the large yellow dot, that's the Amarillo Grande uranium-vanadium district. It's located just in the northern part of Patagonia. The company, who is it managed by? Who's the team? What is the team behind Blue Sky? Like any well-managed company, any good company, sometimes even more important than the project is the team that's running it. And the Grosso Group, they are extremely well known and pioneers of exploration and mining in Argentina since the country opened up to mining back in 1993. Have a long list of experience in managing success, having made 4 major discoveries in Argentina, listed here, including the Gualcamayo gold mine, which is still in production. There's a Chinchillas silver lead zinc mine, which is in production right now by SSR Mining, and in Navidad, and of course, Amarillo Grande uranium-vanadium discovery, which is what we're talking about. The Grosso Group gives the company a definite competitive advantage in that it's one of the most well-known mining groups in Argentina and throughout South America for that matter. So being very adept at community relations, government relations, and throughout the industry. So we're in good hands here. And more specific to Blue Sky, our chairman and director, Mr. Joe Grosso, who is also the president and founder of Grosso Group. Joe Grosso has been inducted into Argentina's Mining Hall of Fame. And again, the accolades that I mentioned earlier really attribute to Joe. Myself, I've been working with Joe for the last 28 years alongside and being mentored by him. David Terry, who is also a director of the company. David is a professional economic geologist and has been providing Blue Sky with a very steady hand and good oversight of all the technical work that's been ongoing. You'll be hearing in this presentation from Guillermo Pensado, our Vice President of Exploration. Guillermo is an award-winning geologist, having won Geologist of the Year by his peers in Argentina just a little while ago. And he's a specialist in uranium, having worked with Cameco and some other companies. And the last person I'd like to bring your attention to is Chuck Edwards. Chuck was the chief metallurgist for Cameco for a number of years. He's one of the best known metallurgists and processing engineers in the world. And he's been the one that's been looking after all the mineral processing and PEA work that we're working on in the metallurgy. So let's step back and look at uranium. Like I said in the opening, we're in a rising uranium market. Why is that? Uranium is going up because acceptance amongst the public in general for electricity generated by nuclear reactors is becoming more and more acceptable. It's a very safe, secure, reliable, and carbon-free way to generate electricity. And with that, we're seeing more reactors being built worldwide, but the supply of uranium is not keeping up. So this is, we've actually seen since a couple of years ago now, the demand exceeding supply, and we're seeing the price of uranium beginning to rise. I think it's gone from $16 a few years ago up to, it's doubled now, and it's projected to continue to grow. Now, where is uranium produced? It's basically produced in just a handful of countries. Kazakhstan, of course, being the largest producer in the world, because not just because of the prevalence of uranium, but also because of their ability to produce it at a very low cost. Other countries include Canada and Australia, and of course, a bit in Namibia in Africa. The pricing for natural uranium, well, most of uranium in general does not trade on an open market like you would find for copper. Uranium is basically a negotiation between a mine and a utility, a nuclear reactor. So almost 80% of the global supply is in these long-term contracts with utilities, and they're priced, you know, their term is usually between 3 and 15 years, and definitely a premium to the spot market. And this is what we're seeing now, is a lot of these contracts are beginning to expire now, and there's a renegotiation of them, and that's another driver for the demand of uranium. And then going into Argentina, what we see is most people don't realize that Argentina is a nuclear country. It is a country that is involved in every facet of the nuclear industry, from nuclear generation, research reactors, building and exporting small modular reactors, everything but uranium production. They have to import all the uranium need, and they pay a real premium for that. In fact, the premium runs somewhere around $85 a pound. Now, as that contract that Argentina has is beginning to expire, this is where Blue Sky sees as a very unique business opportunity for us to step in and become Argentina's domestic source of supplier. And of course, for Blue Sky, that would represent our first potential customer, and then we could be in a position to export additional uranium to the global market after that. And this brings us to the Amarillo Grande project, and I hand over the presentation to Guillermo, who will walk you through the attributes of this very, very exciting project. Guillermo?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for be listening our nice story here at Amarillo Grande project. This is a picture of the drilling program at Ivana deposit a few years ago, and you can see since the beginning the flat area where we are at the Rio Negro province. Next, please. Okay, the Amarillo Grande project comprises a series of tenements of property, mining property, that initially were located in the northern part, where the company did the first discovery of uranium in the Rio Negro province. This was back in 2006. Since then, we were prospecting and exploring the entire district because we could define, based on field exploration programs with supported with airborne radiometric programs, that this was not only few uranium manifestation on surface as initially was seen, if not was within an entire uranium district, as we could see later on the exploration. Since 2006, the first airborne radiometric survey defined to the south tremendous radiometric anomalies that was called ANIT, where we were exploring back in 2009, 2010, and it was defining some uranium manifestations well near surface in the first 2.6 meters from surface, averaging 0.03 uranium, 0.075 vanadium, and later exploration program defining that we have probably more vanadium mineralization surrounding that area. But finally, in 2011, we could define what is now our main focus, the Ivana sector, well to the south. So in the other extreme of this entire district, as I mentioned before, discovered by the company, that is more than 140 kilometers trend, northwest, southeast. And in that part, in the southern part of the district, we started to do an intensive exploration program back in 2017. And in few years, we could finally define a deposit discovery, an initial resource estimation, and finally a PEA back in 2019. Next, please. This entire district discovery was or is located in the Rio Negro province. This is the Patagonia northern sector of Argentina. This is a depression in a province with really very good experience in the nuclear sector. As Nico mentioned before, it's a nuclear country, and probably the more important nuclear engineering company is located in this province, in Rio Negro. So it's a province with very good experience and also open for mining. We can see not only uranium exploration, as well we can see gold, copper, and other companies exploring. This is also a province open for oil and gas sector, very well developed. And it's a province with, although you can see at the picture that is a flat area, desert zone, very low rain, strong evaporation, that still there, we have a very good infrastructure. We have paved roads, federal roads, dirty roads, cross-cutting all the entire district that we explore, as well as the presence of energy close to deep ports and airports. Next, please. The mineralization at Amarillo Grande comprise two types of uranium-vanadium deposits. In general terms, sandstone-type deposits, those that actually produce most of the uranium in the world. It's uranium related to sands or conglomerates, where the mineralization is in the very fine material between the sediment grains or coating those grains, as well as superficial type deposit that is like a remobilization of uranium in the soil or upper part of this terrain. Those type of deposits are very well known. Sandstone type deposit are the most studied and known deposit initially in United States, but also in Kazakhstan, where actually represent the main source of uranium, with a geology similar to the geology at Amarillo Grande zone, and the superficial type deposits more related with arid zones like those in Namibia or West Australia. As I mentioned before, the mineralization that we are focused today to the economic potentiality is that mineralization related or located, in the upper part, in the first 25, 30 meters from surface. That means that it's very low cost exploration, easy to be advancing and ranking projects, because we have several projects along that zone. And it's very easy to be working also with pit sampling, as you can see in that picture, where you can dig by hand, because the material is basically unconsolidated or very poorly consolidated. Next, please. So the geology that we are seeing here is a sedimentary basin with different levels and horizon that could be trapping uranium mineralization.
Sorry.
Fine. And this broad zone that, as I mentioned, more than 140 kilometers long, represent like an entire trap zone for uranium deposit that could be developed there. Doesn't mean that everything is mineralizing, that this is a trapping zone that potentially can comprise mineralization as was defined in the three targets observed before, and as Ivana deposit to the south. And this geology is pretty similar to the geology and mineralization tab present at Kazakhstan district, where, as an example, Inca Mine, the first sandstone deposit producer in those basins in Kazakhstan, had proven and probable reserve for more than 270 million pounds, grading 0.03% U3O8. Not the million of pounds by now, but at least the grade pretty similar to observe it at Ivana deposit and other targets. Next, please. So the exploration initiated in 2016, initially as prospects, and that finally finished in the southern portion of Ivana with the intensive exploration drilling program that defined a deposit near surface, as I mentioned before, in the upper 25 meters from surface. It's uranium and vanadium mineralization hosted by loosely consolidated sands and gravels. The mineralization is mainly oxidized, is carnotite on surface, is an oxidizing mineral, a uranium-vanadium mineral. And the primary mineralization, the sandstone type mineralization, is a coffinite, but also oxidized. It's something that we mentioned it as beta coffinite. So this, our deposit, Ivana deposit, is a combination of those two type of well-known deposits. The mineral resource estimated and published in 43101 comprise 28 million tons, grading 0.03% U3O8 and 0.02% V2O5. That represent 22.7 million pounds uranium as U3O8 and 11.5 million pounds vanadium as V2O5. Next, please. So our first intensive exploration program could rapidly define a deposit that, as you can see in this map, represent a mineralization zone of more than 5 kilometers arc-grade mineralized corridor, where the high-grade zone is in the central part, but is still with extensions to the southwest and to the southeast. And in fact, as you can see, those cubes there represent pit sampling that of zone that were not drilled yet, so that zone could be still open for expansion because we had very good results there. Next, please. So at this point, we could define a potentially economic deposit due to the volume. The other point to test in the exploration program was if that uranium and vanadium could be potentially economically recovered. And the initial test program was really successful and showed that we can have very good recovery of uranium and vanadium in a simple two-step process using very well-known low environmental impact technology that represent very low processing cost. The two steps or stages means that, as I mentioned, the mineralization of the uranium is between the grains or coatings. So with a simple wet scrubbing and screening, you separate the fine material, uranium and vanadium, and go to a second stage where you leach with a sodium carbonate and bicarbonate, and you recuperate in the overall process 85% of the uranium and 53% of the vanadium. Next, please. So we already have volume, grade, we have recovery. The other part that was assessed for the PEA prepared was the kind of mining could be required for this type of mineralization, because it's on sands or conglomerates on surface is basically simple mining as quarries, sand quarries, where you can mine without drilling and blasting because it's unconsolidated or poorly consolidated. And the good thing also is that due to the type of mineralization and the processing that we are expecting to do, it's possible to be doing remediation at the same time or just after mining. So at the end of the mining process, we could be reclaiming most of the area, and that cost was also included in the PEA. That is something that Nico, next please, gonna tell you about.
That's right. So these are the outputs, basically the summary of the preliminary economic assessment, or PEA, that we completed on the Ivana deposit a couple of years ago. Just a few things to bring your attention to. One, the project has a net present value with an 8% discount of $135 million at that time. and that represents just under a 30% internal rate of return, which is very good, and is exactly where you want to see a project like that. The two key metrics that kind of appealed to me was, I always thought, what's it going to cost to put something like this into production? So we see here the capital costs being projected at $128 million. And that includes a $28 million contingency. And that for me is key, because if we're successful with our ongoing exploration efforts and we continue to add pounds and make additional discoveries, these numbers likely are not going to change very much. It's going to remain relatively fixed. And the second thing is, is this economic at the end of the day, right? Is it a viable business? And we look at the cash costs, basically just over $16 a pound. And even if you include the all-in sustaining costs, we're just over $18 a pound. So this, to me, this indicates that if it was in production today, this would be making money. So this is a great place to be, when you're just beginning with a project. But to get a better handle on how these costs compare with other global producers, what we did is we plotted on the red line there showing our costs at Ivana from the PEA, and compare it across the board with producers around the world and see how we compare. And as you can see, we rank within the first quartile of the lowest costs in the world. So, the other companies within that area there are basically mines that are operating in Kazakhstan. So we're in a very good space here. I think this is a great way to begin. It gives us a lot of confidence. Now, the stage, of course, is set. Let's continue to find more additional resources and continue to grow this, and hopefully be able to maintain the same cost curve as we're at right now. And when we're looking at our exploration targets, again, here's the entire property package, 145 kilometers in length, about 50 kilometers wide. And as Guillermo stated, we've been working on this project over 15 years now, and we know that there's targets and surface mineralization throughout. And we've prioritized these targets and indicated here with some numbers. Now, number 1 is the actual Ivana deposit. Numbers 2 and 3 represent Ivana Central and Ivana North. Now, these two targets are about 10 kilometers and 20 kilometers, respectively, north of the Ivana deposit. And they represent very similar geology to the Ivana deposit. And that's where we're drilling. That's where drilling has been ongoing now. We have a 4,500 meter drill program that was announced that's been working there. Additionally, numbers 4 and 5 are Cateo Cuatro and Ivana East, respectively. And these are two targets that we plan to also to drill in the upcoming months here, as we're just waiting for permitting to come into play. And the idea is really to focus around the Ivana deposit, because we could run this as potentially as a mobile processing plant and be able to chuck in ore from all these different sites potentially, and be able to keep our capex costs down, like I indicated. And of course, over the years, there's potential going all the way up to the Santa Barbara. So there's potential here to make many multiple uranium discoveries. So in conclusion, having gone through the presentation of the Amarillo Grande, we see that there's very easy access to get to the project. Provincial infrastructure is excellent, that's in place. In fact, there was even a pilot uranium enrichment plant just in the same province where we're operating in. The geological setting and the characteristics of our deposits so far, of the entire district, are very similar to what we see in Kazakhstan, some of the biggest in the world. A great district to be emulating. There's a value in the project itself, is underpinned by the deposit of 22.7 million pounds of uranium and 11.5 million pounds of vanadium. The initial PEA establishes that this project is potentially viable. Could be making it gives us the green light to continue working forward. And as we've seen, we have the potential here to with a successful drill program, to rank amongst the largest uranium districts in the world with some of the lowest operating costs. So from an investment point of view, we can see all of this. The company's being managed by an experienced management team and successful management team that knows how to manage for success. There's we control 100% of the uranium-vanadium district, and we know that it's open for expansion with drilling underway. You know, we're confident we'll be able to grow this and, you know, and become one of the first low-cost domestic uranium suppliers, not just in Argentina, but throughout South America, potentially even to the United States. So it's a very, very unique situation. Our shares, well, we just got just over 162 million shares. Market cap runs at around $40 million market cap. And with that, I would like to take any questions. Both Guillermo and I happy to take any questions that you may have.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Please send in your questions, and we'll give them to Nico and Guillermo. What is the type or style of uranium mineralization, the host rock?
Guillermo?
Yes, sure. Well, the mineralization, as I mentioned, is uranium-vanadium in sediments, like sands or conglomerates. This is a very well-known sandstone-type deposit. The point is that because we are near surface, the uranium and vanadium was remobilized and set into surface in a different type of deposit known in the sector as superficial type deposits. So it's a combination of both. That means that the uranium is between the grains or coating the grains, or precipitated in as a mass, in some cases near surface, but most of the time at the Ivana deposit at least is oxidized uranium that is very easy to leach, as I mentioned. The sands, when it's in the sandstone type deposit, and the conglomerates are poorly consolidated. That means that it's salty. You don't need, you can dig with a shovel by hand, so it's very easy to remove. And in a potential mining processing, you don't need drilling and blasting. So it's sands and conglomerate with mineralization within the defined material.
Is Ivana a roll front type uranium deposit? Are the U and V values based on actual lab tests or equivalent values based on radiometric logging results?
It's a roll front deposit. As you can see, the shape of the deposit is typical of a groundwater rich in uranium that precipitate when found a redox front, and all the results were based on geochemistry, sampled meter by meter, and as I done in Vancouver.
Okay, and Nico, why don't you put the presentation back up so we might have to refer to some slides. And
certainly.
What is the sampling space used for the resource estimate?
Well, today we are in inferred resource class, but as mentioned at the PA, because most of the holes are closer than 200 meters, we have holes every 100 meters, 200 meters, and 400 meters. Most of the resource are in the nearest zone where the sample in the hole is meter by meter. So they could be probably 80% of that volume could be easily converted into indicated.
Knowing what you know now, what might you have done differently better in the last couple of years?
Sorry, I lost your, I didn't hear you.
Knowing what you know now, what might you have done differently or better in the last couple of years?
Well, we did two discoveries here. We discovered the deposit itself, the mineralization, the volume, the million of pounds, but also the type of deposit that we are looking for, and the exploration tools to apply in the other new zones. So based on that experience at Ivana deposit, we started to rank our other targets with started to prioritize those that now we understand have more chances than other. And this was, I mean, a very key discovery also done at the Ivana deposit.
Okay, Adam? You don't have audio.
Got it now.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Campbell. A quick question for you guys, just about the province in Argentina that you are operating. What can you speak to the ability to permit a new mine or permit specifically a uranium mine in that province?
Well, as I mentioned, Ivana deposit is the first discovery of uranium in this discovery. However, it's a province with a high development of the nuclear sector. In the same province, we have the research center in the western part, where is the most famous, probably in Latin America, research center for nuclear energy, that is Instituto Balseiro, and where the most important nuclear energy development company, also in Latin America probably, is located. And they have a nuclear research reactor operating in the province. The National Atomic Energy Commission also have a pilot uranium enrichment plant with the permit to operate in the same province. And we don't know about uranium mine yet because we are the first one, but we know that pilot uranium enrichment plant need a lot of permits also, and they probably have the experience to move this forward in a very properly good way and with experience to do it.
Guillermo, is there capacity at the enrichment plant to run your product?
The capacity of the nuclear reactors in Argentina, you mentioned? Sorry.
No.
My audio is not.
Do you have? Is there capacity at the enrichment facility to take your product and enrich it?
No, this is other part. Argentina have also, not in this province, but in the northern part of the or central part of the country, Argentina have the capacity to produce nuclear fuel. The nuclear enrichment is for other things. Argentina use natural or weak or very low enrichment uranium. So this is just a pilot plant, but Argentina actually buy a yellowcake U3O8 because we are not producing since the end of the 90s. And they buy ore material from other countries, Kazakhstan, Canada. And in Argentina, we produce the enrichment of the uranium to produce nuclear fuel in two different companies. One almost 100% controlled by the Atomic Energy Commission, and the other one is a private public company that produce the nuclear fuel for the nuclear reactors.
And Guillermo, has there been a mine permitted, a mine of any sort permitted in the province you're operating in recently?
No, recently, no. They had experience in the past. I mean, they have oil and gas, they have no metalliferous mining, very well developed, but metalliferous gold, silver is just under exploration. This province was not on the focus of the explorationists in Argentina. It's like a new district. As I mentioned, we were the first discovering on-surface uranium back 15 years ago. And it's a huge zone. So that is the new horizon of the mining in Argentina.
Mm-hmm. And with your talks with the provincial agencies, as well as with locals, does it appear to you that they are open? Are their minds open to permitting a new mine in the province?
Well, I mentioned the province is open for mining. They want to diversify their economy. They are just stimulating the shale oil and gas in the northern portion of the province, trying to develop gold, silver districts also in the western part, west of the Ivana deposit. And the company that I mentioned, that is the most important nuclear engineering company, the main controlling sector is the province itself. It's state-owned. So they are interested in the development of the entire nuclear reactor for sure, because they have, as I say, nuclear research reactor. They have the study center, like Instituto Balseiro, and we understand that the province is a well-supported province to the development of the sector. Yes.
And Guillermo,
Yes.
go ahead.
No, and I mean, locally, we are in a very low population zone, but the people there is, well, we have a lot of workers working with us, and they are really happy to see in a zone where very low economy development, to see that a new sector could be opening new opportunities for them.
Excellent. And so from what I hear, Guillermo, the province, in your opinion, is open-minded for a mine. They are in need of local uranium ore supply to fill their existing refining and nuclear power industry.
Yes.
And so then your uranium would be used, your uranium would be sent to local processors to be used for local power in order to displace imports.
Yes, in the estimation of production at the PEA, means that we will be producing approximately 1.2 million pounds uranium per year. Half of that production would cover the local consumption in Argentina, and the other half could be or still acquired by the country if they want to generate a stockpile, or could be exported with their permit as required by law.
So all you need to export is a permit, and then you could export to refined product to any international buyer.
Yes, because Argentina is in a treatment with no or nuclear energy for the pills. We need the permit of the country to do it. And yes, you need the permit, and the portion acquired by the first buyer by law is also the country, but the law also say that it's an international market price. So it's at the same condition that you could be exporting. And to mention today, Argentina is acquiring for a price well above the market price with long-term contracts. And Argentina tried to maintain their sales capacity that was cut at the end of the 90s, as I mentioned, due to economy assessments. But now the country, by law, also say that nuclear reactors in Argentina should be fed by Argentinian uranium. So that is a well support. And in the other part, vanadium, that we are not talking, is not, economically it's not the more important here, but Argentina also import 100% of the uranium consumed today.
Vanadium consumption.
Yeah.
And that's for use in the steel in Argentina's steel industry.
Yes, exactly. We produce steel mainly for the oil and gas sector, and we consume vanadium, and today is 100% imported.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. I will pass it on to Erdi for some additional questions.
Thank you. Related to this local supply, when it comes to those times, how do you think the competition will be with the other companies? Why the government will choose your project?
There's no others.
Yeah, we are the only one today.
Okay, that's a short answer. Thank you. And do you think for this project there could be a non-traditional way of financing? Like, do you think for the vanadium part of it, you can find some interested parties to sell it in advance?
We would consider anything that makes sense to the company and for shareholders. So we would take anything into consideration at this point. Yes.
Do you think is it possible for the uranium space for these kind of projects?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, I will pass the next one.
Sure.
When we look at the increase in the uranium equities, do you think your company appreciated the same with the industry average? When we look at the 1-year chart of the uranium stocks?
Well, we've had a decent appreciation. I think, since the beginning of the year, we've doubled our market cap. We did a financing too, so our market cap has gone up maybe fourfold since the beginning of the year. That's a decent appreciation. I think, any further appreciation is going to be highly dependent on the results of our exploration program. I feel very confident that as we publish results that show, additional finds of uranium, I think you're going to see a revaluation in the company and the market.
Thank you. Campbell?
Sure. Really just one more question. Strategy to become a long-term producer or sell the project? I mean, I know that the answer is, well, it's still early, or
it is early,
best for
Campbell.
shareholders, but and just any subtlety you can add to that thought would be great.
Well, we know, and we're not kidding ourselves, we know that we're explorationists, and we're really good explorationists. I'm confident, and I'm proud to be able to say that. Is it simple to take this into production? Conceptually, yes. But I would feel, as speaking not just as a president, but also as a shareholder, that I would love to see someone with production muscle and political contacts and everything be involved if this were to go into production. Would we do it in concert, in joint venture with somebody, or sell it? It all depends on what's on the offer, what's the best thing for the company. So these are decisions to be made in the future, but we also do understand where our weaknesses and where our strengths are. So I think that's important to keep in the forefront of when considering these types of questions.
Now, some investors might say, well, I can't wait how many years for you to be in production. What is the investment proposition for an investor to get involved, in this kind of exploration play?
Look at
what's in it for them?
If you look at a typical, there's been a number of charts that have gone around that show the market price appreciation as the company starts from a piece of property until it becomes a mine. And typically the highest rise in a company's valuation happens at the exploration phase, not at the production phase. When you're building to go into production, typically that there's an exchange of investors. The risk takers basically are taking their money and leaving, and then the new set of investors and bankers and whatnot typically tend to step in, and the price typically begins to slow down and then begins to pick up after it goes into production. So for us, we're explorationists, and if we can sell the project at the best value or get the best value for it, that's what we're going to do. So waiting for production is not necessarily the best thing to do. Waiting to get the best valuation during exploration, you know, that's really that's what I do when I look at a mining exploration company.
Great. Thank you very much. And with that, I'll ask everyone to please share your feedback on your way out, and your comments will absolutely get to Nico and Guillermo very shortly. Replay available at amvestcapital.com/webinars, and it'll be emailed to you, the link, in a few hours. With that, I'm going to pass it back to you two to close this out. So anything new? What's our last message?
Well, thank you. I think I want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen to this presentation. I hope you do agree with us that this represents a very unique and exceptional opportunity in the uranium space. There's not many uranium districts out there. I think as our exploration efforts go forward and we make additional discoveries, I think in the next few months here, Blue Sky is going to radically change its valuation, and I think the company's at an inflection point right now. I do hope you consider it as an investment to have some Blue Sky in your portfolio. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good day, everyone.
Good day.
Thank you. Bye.